Hey everyone, it's Saoirse. Happy New Year, or neutral New Year, because time means nothing and we don't need the calendar to change to feel like we've got a fresh start. That being said, I did try to get into more of a routine today and felt a lot better than when I just have completely unstructured time. But yeah, I hope you are well. I hope you are treating yourself well and doing the best that you can and not punishing yourself when you don't do the best. That's all I will say. So today I want to talk about my favorite reads of 2021. These are the 10 books that I read that I liked the most last year. You probably won't be surprised by some of these or any of them. It was a good year for reading, for discovering books that I had either not heard of or wanted to read for a long time and finally got around to, and pleasantly discovered that I liked them. I did have a goal of reading 52 books originally. If you follow me on Goodreads, you might have seen that my goal changed. Eventually I dropped it to, I think, 40 and then down to 35, and I read 35 books. There was a long period of just struggling and just surviving for a few months, and yeah, maybe I'm still kind of doing that, but now I'm reading while doing that, which is great, because sometimes I get in a phase, I think like many of us do, where we can't even read because our brains are so doing their own thing, and it's hard. I've been in slumps like that for months and months and months before. But last year, I think 35 is pretty good, and I should say it is not about the numbers. Don't pressure yourself to read a certain amount of books if that's not your scene. I think this year, I always set a goal, but I think I'm gonna not make myself all anxious about the goal. And I'm getting pretty good at that, just kind of enjoying what I'm reading and not freaking out about the quantity of the books. So this year we had really good quality. We started off, and I'm going to go in order of I'm going to go in order of how I read these books. So this one was in January, and it is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I loved this book. This was such a good way to start the year because I had been in one of those aforementioned really bad reading slumps, and I read this and could not put it down. I just was so into the narration style, and at the time was extremely in my true crime hyperfixation. So it was perfect for me, and it's a classic. I highly recommend it. I will link, if I'm not lazy, I will link all the videos about these books that I mention, so you can check those out for yourself. So this book, I could give you a little bit of a synopsis of each, I guess, if you haven't watched my other videos. This book tells the story of the murder of the Clutter family in Kansas, and this is in 1959. And a lot of people kind of, it even says on the back, it even says fiction. So some people aren't happy about the way that Truman Capote went about writing this, and fictionalizing it and adding stuff that maybe didn't happen that way. But it is such a strong piece of literature, and if you're looking to take it as pure journalistic, this is absolutely fact reporting, then maybe just do your own research about the murder as well, because he has quite the artistic flair. Next up, we have a short story collection, and this is Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman by Haruki Murakami. My ring light loves shiny books. So I absolutely loved this one. Again, just sped through it. I really started getting into short story collections in the past year or two. There's 24 stories in here, so this one I loved because the stories were very, very short, and I'm somebody who likes short chapters, choppy stuff. I like to feel like I'm making some progress occasionally, you know? So these were just fantastic and so original, and some of them were completely bizarre. It says, here are animated crows, a criminal monkey, and an iceman, as well as the dreams that shape us and the things we might wish for. From the surreal to the mundane, these stories exhibit Murakami's ability to transform the full range of human experience in ways that are instructive, surprising, and entertaining. And I just love his style. I've said it a million times before. I'll say it again probably. I just love how he sort of has this, not deadpan way of writing, but it is not flowery. It's not in your face. It's very like, this is exactly how it happened. Even when he's talking about a talking monkey or something, you just believe him. Which is very, very skillful. Next up, we have a lot of these were from the beginning of the year. I really made some good choices at the beginning of the year with my reading. Next up is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And this is one that I had wanted to read for a long time and felt like I should because it's a classic. And I love dystopian fiction. Love it. So if you haven't read this book, it is a darkly satiric vision of a utopian future where humans are genetically bred and pharmaceutically anesthetized to passively serve a ruling order. So it really, really makes you think. And I know probably every generation says this about classic books. They're like, oh, it's about our generation and it's so relatable to us. But it is very relatable to what the possibilities might be, the dark way that the world is going. I would really like to see 2022 just be the year of world peace and equality and cleaning up the oceans and the air. And wouldn't it be great if it was just a good year and everybody got that promotion and everybody just felt fulfilled and we all meditated and we got our exercise every day and we felt really strong? And wouldn't it be just great if we all just had a really good year? That would be so cool. Anyway, it's just, we say that every year, this is gonna be our year. And it's getting to be whoa, maybe we should not say that. Maybe we've cursed ourselves, but I don't really believe in that. If we didn't have hope, then what would we have? So, gotta still keep hoping. So the next book, this is actually a reread, and I read this book every year or two. Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Now, if you know my channel, you know this is my favorite modern novel. I love it so much. That's from when I met the author. I did a 4-part video thing on video series on a book that is only 213 pages. That is how much I have to say about this book and how much it's influenced me. I recommend to anybody who is in high school at least to read this book, to read it then at that age and then keep reading it when you get older. It says, this haunting novel about the dilemma of passivity versus passion marks the stunning debut of a provocative new voice in contemporary fiction. This is the story of what it's like to grow up in high school. It's a coming of age story, and that has been done in so many different ways, so many times, but this book, just the way that he's written it, it is so powerful and it is so necessary, and I think it should be on every reading list for everyone, whether you're in a book club, school, or just your own personal reading list. It's a must read. That's all. This one I absolutely loved. At Home by Bill Bryson. Come on, ring light. Stop it. A Short History of Private Life. This book is so long, and it's over 500 pages, and I just was obsessed with it the whole time. I love history, first of all. I love reading books that are, I don't know why it's all messed up right here. I love reading not historical fiction as much, but I like reading history. I like to read about a specific topic or a specific point in time. in this case, it's a specific topic. So this covers private life and the home from a zillion years ago to now, with mostly focused on Victorian England, which, hello, like that's my my love, Victorian and Edwardian England, because the furniture, and this book really sparked my love for furniture. And well, I already did love furniture so much, and if you can't tell, I'm always redecorating and rearranging things and renovating, because I just love interior design. And so this was like, it was so much fun to read because there's just so many crazy facts about like why do we put furniture, why do we arrange it a certain way, and like why do things become standard? When was the first time people saw a whole lot of glass? Like, it's just fascinating. And he goes room by room using his own house as a jumping off point. So he tells you about, you know, the library, the kitchen, the bathroom, all that, and it's, some of it is so laugh out loud funny. If you've read Bill Bryson, then you come to expect that. Next up, we have another short story collection, 10th of December by George Saunders. And I adored this collection because it was just so varied. I think there's 10 stories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah. And I picked it up because there were 2 stories in here that I'd read for grad school and loved them, and was so struck by this crazy writing style that I'd never seen anything like it before. So I thought I'll probably like the rest of these stories, and yeah, I really did, and they're just so different. I felt like later when I read Pastoralia, another of his collections, I felt like those stories were a lot more like similar, like they fit, you know, a theme within a collection. This was just like all over the place, crazy, and genius on every page. I can't recommend it enough. Can't really give you a synopsis because it's short stories, but they're nuts, and they make you think about modern, especially American life, in a very freaky way, and also give you a sort of Black Mirror feeling of what might happen in the future. Next up is Tiny Beautiful Things, and this is by Cheryl Strayed. Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar. So this is from Cheryl Strayed's column of advice where people write in. She tells them what she thinks about their situation, and she's been doing this for many years. She is the author who wrote Wild, and she's so intuitive and so thoughtful, and I cried 1,000,000 times while reading this. And so it's all letters from people and her responses to them, so it reads really easily and just takes you on this journey of human emotion and makes you feel so much less alone, because man, everybody has got something going on. And even when we know people who we think their lives are always easy, that's impossible. They can't always be easy. So a lot of good lessons in this. Definitely recommend. And I wanted to include Wild in this list as well because I reread that last year. But I was like, okay, I'll only put one reread in this top 10. Next up is Dune by Frank Herbert. I loved it. I couldn't believe how fast I read this book that is over 600 pages. I just hadn't read something like this in a while, like something where there's this whole world that is created, there's so much world building in the style of Tolkien, and I was blown away by it. I kept having to reference the back where it explained all of the phrases and words that he just made up. So I loved it, and then I read it like the month before the movie came out because I was like, that's it, I'm finally gonna read this book and I'm gonna do it right in time. And then I saw the movie, and the whole time I was just like, this is so cool. Just spectacularly imaginative, and I do recommend at least the first one. I'm reading the third one right now, and man, it gets confusing, but you get the hang of it. Yeah, so I don't know if you need a description of this, but I'll read you a sentence. Set on the desert planet Arrakis, Dune is the story of the boy Paul Atreides, who would become known as Muad'Dib, and of a great family's ambition to bring to fruition humankind's most ancient and unattainable dream. Okay. 2 more. This next one is Feline Philosophy, Cats and the Meaning of Life by John Gray. I really enjoyed this, and it was my first foray into philosophy. I had no clue what to expect, but the way that he mixed stories and anecdotes and analogies about cats with explaining these actual, like, serious philosophical ideas was so genius, and it was so relatable, and like it wasn't dumbed down at all. I really thought it was going to be like, oh, there's this skinny little book with a cat on the cover and it's going to be like a little jokey thing you give cat lovers at Christmas, but it really wasn't. It was like an actual philosophical text, and I felt quite smart reading it and had to reread some paragraphs a few times. But really gives you a great perspective and is definitely a good place to start if you want to read philosophy and you're nervous about getting started. This is only 111 pages and not easy, but definitely easier than maybe like a textbook on philosophy. Really, really good. Loved it. Read it with my cats on my lap. Okay, last one. Here we go. I read this in like one evening pretty much. I read like 20 pages one day and then the next day I read the rest of it. And I was in the bath reading it until it got cold, and then I was in the living room, and I was in the other room, then I was in the bedroom. Like I just kept, walking around the house with my nose in this book. And it has both sparked and continued on with my fascination with Titanic. It is A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. That was one of the videos that I had the most fun making. That Titanic video was so fun. I loved doing my little Jack Dawson outfit and just talking about the immense amount of facts in here, because this is such a short book and it's an account of the whole night using all the interviews that the author did with survivors of the Titanic sinking. So it's just so interesting, and I don't think there's anything about the Titanic that I would not find interesting. But then it's like there's such a mystery around the whole thing, because even with the interviews with the survivors, we'll never know exactly what happened and exactly what was said to whom, by whom, and when, and where, because we don't have any recordings or footage or anything of the disaster, so it's all word of mouth, and you know how things change in your head when you're experiencing something traumatic. So it's just so interesting to hear like the different things that people think happened that night, and they were all there at the same place, but they interpreted it differently or thought they saw different things. But then there are, there's the facts of what we actually know, like when certain telegraph messages were sent. And yeah, I just loved it. I loved the details about the rescue by the Carpathia. And by the way, on Jeopardy, I didn't see this episode, but my mom told me, the final Jeopardy question recently was something like, on April 15th, 1912, Charles Lightoller was the last person of like 700 people to board this boat. And if I had been on Jeopardy at that moment, I would have won. Although I think 2 people did actually get the right answer, and it's the Carpathia. I was just like, everybody's talking about Titanic right now. Like, I just watched this Christine McConnell live stream where she talked about Titanic a lot, and I feel like there's a Titanic reference in every movie I watch. Is it just happening now, or has this always been this way? Anyway, I'm obsessed. So that is it. Those are the 10 books that were my favorites from 2021. It's fun thinking about, I'm looking at like all the books that I have and what I might possibly read this year. Sky's the limit. I have like over 100 books that I have not read yet, that I own. Like this whole shelf. Like the last foot of that shelf I've read, like these, but this bottom shelf, I've not read it. So that's what happens when you keep collecting and you collect too many and you can't read them all. And I'm not a very fast reader. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what was your favorite book that you read, or your favorite 10 books. I don't care. Tell me all of them. And what do you plan to read next? Thank you so much for watching, and happy neutral New Year.